Okay, so let's get right into it. We're talking about a huge showdown, a real high stakes standoff between Anthropic, one of the world's top AI companies, and its most powerful client, the United States Pentagon. And this is so much more than a simple contract dispute. This is really a battle for the soul of artificial intelligence.
And that really gets us to the core question here, right? What actually happens when a tech company, one that built its entire identity on safety, looks the most powerful military in the world in the eye and says, nope, we're not doing that? Well, as you're about to see, the answer is complicated. And honestly, it gets pretty intense. At the center of all this, you've got Anthropic CEO Dario and their really powerful AI model, Claude. Now, the Pentagon already uses Claude on its classified networks, but they wanted more. They demanded that Dario remove some really crucial safety restrictions, which basically created this massive clash between Anthropic's founding principles and the government's demands for national security. So, how did we even get to this point? To really get what's going on, you first have to understand who Anthropic is. I mean, their entire brand is built on being the safety-first AI company, which, makes their partnership with the Pentagon kind of fascinating from the get-go.
Yeah, Anthropic's backstory is pretty unique. The founders, Dario included, actually walked out of OpenAI. And why? Well, they believed OpenAI was moving too fast, too recklessly. So they went off and started Anthropic with this core mission of responsible AI development. They even created a public safety pledge called the Responsible Scaling Policy. And then they signed a massive $200 million contract, becoming the very first AI company to run on the Pentagon's classified networks. And look, this policy was their crown jewel. It was a promise they made to everyone, in public. It basically said, if our AI models ever get too powerful for us to safely control, we will stop. We will pause all development. It was a hard stop, a literal line in the sand that they promised the world they would not cross.
And it's that exact line in the sand that the Pentagon is now demanding they completely erase. Which brings the story right back to today, and the specific demands that pushed Anthropic to its absolute breaking point. So, on the surface, the Pentagon's ask seemed simple. They just wanted to use Claude for all lawful purposes, no strings attached. But Dario flat out refused. He pointed to two massive, unacceptable risks where he just had to draw the line. The first red line, using AI for mass surveillance on American citizens. The Pentagon's argument was basically, hey, trust us, we'll follow the law. But Dario's response was sharp. What law? There is no legal framework for this stuff. And the irony here is just incredible, right? The US government is constantly criticizing other countries for these exact surveillance tactics, all while trying to build the same tools for itself. The second red line was, if you can believe it, even more chilling. Autonomous weapons. See, the problem is AI can't read human context. It could easily mistake a farmer holding a shovel for a combatant holding a rifle. And that raises a terrifying question. When an AI makes a fatal mistake like that, who's held accountable? The AI? The Pentagon? Dario? Nobody knows. And that was a risk he was just not willing to take. So Dario said no. No to surveillance. No to autonomous weapons. And the Pentagon's response wasn't to sit down and negotiate. Oh no, it was to immediately escalate and threaten to use what you can only really call its nuclear options. After talks completely broke down, they gave Anthropic an ultimatum with two frankly terrifying options. First, they could invoke the Defense Production Act. That's a wartime law, to literally force Anthropic to do what they want. Or second, they could designate Anthropic a supply chain risk, which would effectively blacklist the company. They went with option two. Just let that sink in for a second. The Pentagon gave a San Francisco AI startup whose only crime was sticking to its own safety rules the same national security threat label it gives to foreign companies like Hawaii, who it accuses of actual espionage. It's just wild. And this wasn't just some bureaucratic threat. It was personal. A senior Pentagon official was quoted saying this, that, quote, "We are going to make sure they pay a price for forcing our hand like this." This wasn't just a breakup, it was a promise to punish them. So, what we have is this incredible story of a principled company standing up to immense pressure. But that's not where it ends. In fact, just a few days after this very public, very ugly breakup, the story takes one last, really puzzling twist. This is the question that has everybody scratching their heads. After going through all of that, after facing down the Pentagon, why would Anthropic suddenly and quietly change its most important safety role? It doesn't seem to make any sense.
Remember their original policy, the hard stop? If the AI got too powerful, development would automatically pause. Well, the new policy is different. That automatic stop is gone, vanished. And in its place is a promise to, quote, keep an eye on the speedometer themselves.
There's a really great analogy from the source material that makes this crystal clear. Think of it like removing the speed limiter from a truck. They had a rule that automatically stopped the truck at a certain speed. Now they've just taken it off and are promising to drive carefully. Now, Anthropic's official reason for this is that they need to stay competitive. Their logic is, look, if only the safe companies hit the brakes, then the reckless companies will just race ahead and win, and that's worse for everybody. And they claim this change has absolutely nothing to do with the Pentagon dispute, but the timing is, to say the least, very, very hard to ignore. So which is it? Was this a smart, necessary compromise to make sure the good guys in AI don't fall behind? Or was this a quiet surrender? A dangerous precedent, showing that even the most safety-focused companies will bend their principles if you put enough pressure on them? So where does that leave us? Well, Dario did hold the line on the biggest, scariest, immediate threats. But the company that was once seen as the conscience of the entire AI industry has definitely weakened its core safety promise. They're now trapped in that classic dilemma, a choice between their principles and their survival. And all of this leaves us with a much bigger, much more important question. In this crazy, high-stakes race for AI dominance, if the one company that built its entire identity around safety is willing to take down its own guardrails, who's left to guard them for the rest of us?